Okay. All right. All right. So we have one person waiting.
That's probably Daryl.
No, it's Elena. Elena.
Oh, okay.
Daryl said he'd be here. So what do you guys want to do? We have 4 minutes. What do we do as people? Do we just, I say we wait maybe like 10 minutes or so?
To start at 5:10 or 4:05? I mean, 5:05.
Okay, 5:05.
Mm-hmm.
5:05. Okay, and I'll let Elena in.
Do we mute ourselves?
Yes, mute all. I'll mute everybody. Hi, everybody. Okay. We have a viewing party. Okay. You know, I'm going to put a
ground. And when the stalks match their heights, chop down the plants with machetes hanging from their tiny waists. Our great-grandmothers wrap the stalks in twine and throw the bundles on their backs. When the bundles of indigo hunch their backs, our great-grandmothers head up the path to the room at the top of the hill, past the ceiba tree, which is as miraculously full then of birds and branches as it is now. Inside the room, the women allow their bundles of stiff branches to fall to the ground, and they kick the bundles into a pile beside the first vat. They throw the bundles into the water and count to 100 together, their voices a soft chant. Fat flies thicken the hot air with their dark, deathly bodies, hovering over the vats, scattering outside after a few hours. When the plant oxidizes in the beaten water and changes form, and turns the waters too foul for even the attending insects of rot. Somehow, our great-grandmothers live. The other women in the room have 5 years tops left in their lifelines. Their wombs die empty, polyps colonizing their lungs and their brains. At night, some of the women fall asleep coughing into their mats. They complain of headaches and drop into dead faints, blaming the heat. Their men find them dead. One girl sprawled lifeless on the floor. On one of the sacred mornings, Isalco deigns to erupt, pulmonary blood darkening the ground. One girl collapses dead at the festival of the Black Virgin in Huayua. One girl, Pura India, goes missing for a week and is found broken at the bottom of a well. Hers is one of the sadder cases. They say she suffered visions, hallucinations, momentary paralysis, and days of blindness. But our great-grandmothers live. Our great-grandmothers give birth to our grandmothers, to our mothers, to Graciela's mother, the poison radiating from their indigo-dyed wombs into their infants' bones, and then they return to the finca to make indigo. Our mothers work hauling berries after indigo disappears, and after Graciela disappears, we work inside the same splintered walls. If not for these walls and for Graciela, all of us would go on without leaving a stain on this earth, and all the years we remember, the purple-fingered viejas sit silent, calling to us only after we've gone as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your work, Gina. I appreciate
and Harold, I have to jump in. So Gina, I apologize. The recording was, I turned it on in the middle of your reading. I apologize. So Harold, maybe you can just do a little brief reintro so that if, you know, on the recording, people know what's going on. Hi, everybody.
All right, so who we just read was Gina, and so I'm just going to read her bio really quickly again, and then we can move on to the next reader. So this was Gina Balibrera, who earned her MFA in prose from the University of Michigan's Helen Zell's Writer Program, where she was also a postgraduate fellow. She's been awarded grants from the Gould Center, the Rackham Institute, a Tyson Award, the Aura Estrada Prize, and Under the Volcano, Sandra Cisneros Fellowship. Her work appears in the Boston Review, Ploughshare, Michigan Quarterly Review, the Latino Book Review, and elsewhere. So that was GINA, and we were very grateful for her work. So our next reader is a native of Panama and currently is based in New York City. Daryl Alejandro Holness is a previous recipient of the National Endowment of the Arts Creative Writing Fellowship in Poetry, the Drinking Gourd Poetry Prize from Northwestern University Press, and the Andres Montoya Poetry Prize from Letras Latinas and University of Notre Dame Press. Both of his prizes winning collections are forthcoming in 2021. His poems have appeared in American Poetry Review, Poetry Magazine, The Caribbean Writer, Kayalu, Best American Experimental Writing, and elsewhere in print and online. Holnitz is a Cave Canem and Canto Mundo Fellow. His poetry has also earned him scholarships to the Bread Loaf Writers Conference, the C.P. Cavafy Poetry Prize from Poetry International, and residencies nationwide, including a MacDowell Arts Colony residency. He is an assistant professor at Medgar Evers College, and he teaches at New York University. So we can give a round of applause for Daryl.
Hi, thank you everybody. And also snaps for GINA. Love to see, that was really great work. I love to be in community with all of you guys. Harold, I think we're hearing a little bit of some background stuff from you. Or maybe that was Cesar. Cool. Okay, here we go. Now we're in business. This poem is called Praise Song for My Mutilated World. Ode to the Japanese radio, oozing hot tunes in the hot afternoon of my childhood at age 4 in La Ciudad de Panama at my abuelo's house. Ode to the Black women made of air and imagination who Pito and I dance with in his living room in La Rosita, the rosy part of Rio Abajo, known for turning bullets into blooms. Ode to La Olwa Braz, the early 90s Brazilian siren in Kaoma, who seduces us into dancing with our dream girls and away from the bullet-bitten bodies plastered across the front page of La Crítica News. Ode to the famous mulatto melody howling from the bellows of the accordion on the record, and to the Portuguese words I pronounce in near Spanish as I try to sing along to the forbidden dance song. A recordação vai estar com ela onde for. A recordação vai estar para sempre onde for. There isn't much forbidden in my family except piedra and hierba and the tiroteo from their trade. There isn't much forbidden in my family except pistolas and secuestros, chanchudos y corruptos who've become piedra slaves. Pito and I save the negras in our arms from piedreros, drug dealers, and the cartel, with our moreno swing hips, dips, and spins to the 2-beat carimbo drum rhythm, stronger than the pulse thumping through my little boy body, until I can't tell the difference between my corazón and the radio's tong-tong, until our dream girls become our real women, until we've praised danced our world back to being one that little brown black boys like me can believe in. Thanks. This next poem I'm gonna read is in the anthology. And I started with a grandfather poem. I'm gonna follow this up with a grandmother poem. And yeah, I just dedicate this to my ancestors and to everyone who loves cake or pie or anything delicious. Bread pudding grandmama. We crack open the coconut and mix the fluids of el coco with cow's milk, like I mix words with grunts and moos when speaking with my childhood fable friends. My grandmother teaches me her recipe for bread pudding when I come home heartbroken from high school. Together, we bake everyday pains into guilty pleasures. We mix torn apart bread loaf backs into the batter, always mixed in a ceramic bowl, and watch them move like tectonic plates. I turn the earth at force with my spoon, like turning through stages of teenage rebellion, where nothing stands firm beneath my feet, and my mind, like bread, is an uneven sponge. I add in brown sugar, to taste, she says, and eat some as we bake to feel better about being called a brownie today in class. A little glucose for her day of tasting tears that run down her cheeks as old age runs with my grandfather's mind. We add white sugar, then vanilla. No almond extract unless her monthly check has come in time. If it hasn't, our palate will taste a richer sweetness, the soulful truth of Caribbean cuisine. Almond absence brings the vanilla out more. Our hands mush together our pains with a few grains of salt for style, she says, with a few slices of butter, the secret to life, in each mixing bowl. I'm the darling grandchild, her favorite, I believe. At school, there is trouble and medication for her is expensive. So we make bread, bake bread, the sweet kind to satisfy our appetite. She digs from the bottom of a jar for fruits soaked in wine. Only the best ones. We add this last. This is what gives it that taste, man. Any liquor is all right. She talks, I smile. 86 years old, I believe her old hands and weak eyes, but strong legs and big smile. We empty it into the pan, bake it, and trade our worries for the aroma. We breathe in the perfume of hard work on a hot afternoon, forget that children can be mean, and that with wisdom comes age, but with age comes ailment. Bake for 1.5 hours and devour.
Thank you, Daryl, for your work. As some people have said online, you made them hungry with this beautiful, delicious piece. So thank you. We're going to move on to our next writer who's also moderating this meeting, reading. Her name is Adela Najarro, whose extended family emigrated from Nicaragua, is the author of 3 poetry collections, Split Geography, Twice Told Over, My Children's, a chapbook with teaching resources where students explore creative writing, identity, and what it means to be LatiNext in U.S. society. She teaches writing at Cabrillo College. So if you want some more information on what she does, just go online to www.adelanajarro.com. So if you can give a round of applause or some finger snap for Adela.
Thank you, Harold, and thank you, Daryl, and thank you, Gina, and Gabriela, and Tia Chucha Press, and this wonderful book here. It's such a pleasure to see the United States understanding of Latinidad growing into all of our communities and complexities. And so I'm going to read the 2 poems that are in the book. I have to time myself. After the 1979 Revolución Nicaragüense. My parents' history was erased. Their Nicaragua gone forever. My mother believes I will be assaulted if I return to Managua. My father refuses to go with me. They wrestle memories of what was playing on the radio and a humidity that did not cease. I wonder, about evenings where green parrots fly into overbearing canopy while iguanas sit low and watch. The iguana knows how to run when shadows arise loose from bodies dormant and dead. In 1920, after Rubén Darío's death, the entire nation agreed to rename a city in his honor. His birthplace, Metapa, became Ciudad Darío, poetry being the national pastime. But then Somoza, armed men in jeeps, ghost shadows dancing on skin, all too often. As Nicaragua's poetic sweetheart, Darío conjured mermaids diving deep in Lake Managua and swans sailing slowly on the ponds of a golden palace. He set a lyrical backdrop for a land where my mother's hair was tied up in ribbons as she skipped past a garden where a peacock spread royal blue and a rose was cut only to droop in a vase by the window. Sometimes imaginative sonnets by long-dead poets allow us to escape. Bone-skinned children, bloated seagulls, cathedrals where incense burns shame. As the revolutionary hurricane swept coffee plantations clean, green humidity clung at right angles on reptilian scales, while Darío's mermaids choked in the fresh air. And my next poem is called Star Variation in Blue. If the world is fracture and uncertainty, let us take comfort in the unknown. If the world is fracture and uncertainty, let us take comfort in the unknown. Rainfall collects, then rushes through a bend in the river, a gutter in an alley, stars in a night sky. Let us take comfort in the unknown. Once concentric spheres made the sky. Once God wore a beard and sandals. Once we were water, sky, stars. Let us take comfort in the unknown if the world is fracture and uncertainty. A bone can fracture, a body bleed, that is certain. When a bone fractures, guttural vowels howl. When a body bleeds, consonants cannot stop the pain. It is certain that vowels escape chaotic, hard, into what cannot be written. As bones fracture, as bodies bleed, let us take comfort in the unknown. The world is fracture and uncertainty. In the beginning, a woman loved the stars, a man loved God. Both loved rainfall rushing through concentric spheres in the sky. It was known the goddess had thick breasts, belly, and thighs, and that we are brought to life through water, sky, stars. Let us take comfort. The world, too often, is fracture and unknown. That is certain. Thank you.
Let's give it up again for Adela Naharro for her beautiful poetry. I'm going to introduce you to our next reader. Mauricio Novoa is from Glenmont, Maryland, the son of Salvadoran refugees. He received his MFA from Queen's University of Charlotte and has had his work published in Blue Mesa Review, Acentos Review, La Horchata Zine, Latino Book Review, and the BreakBeat Poets Volume 4, LatiNext. If you can give a round of applause, even online, for Mauricio Novoa.
Thank you, Harold, for that. And thank you all for joining us. I'm super happy to be reading with all these wonderful writers. As you've heard, they're great. And hopefully everyone's been taking care of themselves and their loved ones and their neighbors during everything that's going on. So yeah, I'm gonna get into my first poem now, which is from the anthology. And this one is called Dandelion Graves. Kids of the forgotten refugees, soilless seeds, on the run from the barrel of a gun, on their knees, ducking immigration till they're stationed as far as DC, or LA or the Bay. That was back in Reagan's 80s when numbers shot up like a fiend. Crack rock being steamed in the apartment down the hallway from my mama's baby. But that wasn't the home that my parents made for me. Georgia Ave and Urbana and Lily White Montgomery. Except the Glenmont section was as brown as abuela's coffee, and the smell of asphalt would never wash off papi. A good day was a meal that wasn't frijoles and cheese, so my dreams were drenched in leftover Chinese. But pull yourself and you'll succeed is the bullshit they would feed, so everyone drank piss until they couldn't see. Because how's a kid like me supposed to think when it's engraved, the only future that awaits is a dandelion grave? This next one I wrote after I learned about the Arizona legislator a few years back passing these laws and ordinances trying to outlaw ethnic studies, specifically Mexican American studies. And they were literally pulling books out of classrooms with students in them as watching these books being pulled out. So I found a list of the banned books and took a couple of them, like People's History of the United States, The Fire Next Time, and mixed them into the poem to respond to that. And this one is in the LatiNext anthology from Haymarket. Jailhouse Library. They gave the homie 7 years when the dog sniffed the trunk full of the people's history of the United States. Battering rams crashed the neighbor's door frame, and they rushed the basement, confiscating pounds of a light in the attic. Automatic stop and frisk, strange hands in the most intimate part of a shaking body, and maybe a club to the mouth for anyone who dares to openly carry the fire next time. Police in riot gear hold hands with legislators and clergymen as if they're about to sing "We Shall Overcome," filling a pool with spit from their venomous yelling and sweat from fear of pre-convicted felons they cuff to the bottom of the pool. They watch us drown. This next one's called The Food. In assigned readings, sentences we could understand were as scarce as rainbow-colored salads in our refrigerator. While the cover of every book was like a mirror for our English teachers, for us it was a cracked window. Stories of characters based on shit we would be shot and arrested for ring true as prayers for saviors that grace our necks, but never the court or hospital rooms. Standards for syntax follow patterns out of our natural rhythms, ensuring our words are always dissonant, so we scratched the records into beats in our time signatures, stretched our sonnets by a few couplets, and took education out of outdated books like seeds out of infertile soil, and turned school hallways and notebooks into gardens. Aristotle biting an apple can cruise down the street in a 6'4" if it spit on a DJ Quick beat, scratched in a banned book in Arizona, or tattooed on a forearm. But that won't be served in a tray in the school cafeteria. Those words come fresh in pupusas and Kool-Aid. This next one I wrote for my childhood friends called Happy Meals. Humble pie comes in McDonald's pumpkin boxes, but luxury is Oreo McFlurries on payday. Checks alternating by homie. Me one Friday, Zach another, Moira Monday, Brandon the next. Mom ain't home till 7, but I get hungry by 3, and my last meal was the night before, so Daniel's $5 is split 5 ways, with me, JC, Miles, and Ishmael on a mission for McChickens. Splitting Ishmael's back seat, skinniest one is the seatbelt. After we hoop in the park, post-game stretches are turning quarters into 4-person meals. Taco Bell burritos, dank as Zach's bowl, stained Fuentes mini coupe with grade D beef perfume, as we're rolling through Maryland's richest county, wondering who will have the 5 for tomorrow's dinner. And this last one is for my mommy, and it's called Calluses. Mommy's feet were a Willow Road elementary census, each callus a Spanish-speaking teacher. Because she cleaned hotel rooms, I was almost switched into the ESOL class, even though she had Mr. Rogers tutor me in English fluency. We got a mirror in our bedroom when she got more than Univision to watch at 7 p.m. Home from work, eating at the table by herself. 4 boys sleeping in the same bed, but meals in whatever hole they found or made. Some nights I rubbed her feet after pulling out her canas, Her soul's blistered with each country she left behind, each quarter she got as a raise for promotions, each vacation and conference she tidied up without tip. When she accidentally hit the remote and it switched to the English channels, the characters only said hola when they were scrubbing toilets. That might explain why she always fell asleep halfway through a movie, and why 6 weekend tequilas were what made her dance, then pull me in, making my brick feet drag the cumbia, and why whatever school loans didn't cover went on her credit card. I got my first callus on my left toe when I started working with Spanish-speaking students, one for every teacher they might have had that talked like us, one for every dirty mirror I shaved in front of, one for every stomach pump after drinking like a grown-ass, hard-working for worthless pennies woman that made her the first thing I saw when I woke up and had to work that Monday. But because of the 12 she put on my ass for being a baboso, I may never get another. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauricio. I have to admit, your Happy Meal piece reminded me of my high school friends, but it was Sizzler's all-you-can-eat shrimp for one person while there was 3 of us. So that hit home a lot. So thank you for that. And the rest of your pieces. Our next reader is Carolina Rivera Escamilla. She's an educator, writer, theater actor, and documentarian who lives in LA, California. She was born in El Salvador, but she went into exile in Canada in the mid-1980s. She actively organizes events as a culture promoter here in Los Angeles since the 1990s. She is regularly published in anthologies, on lit magazines, literary magazine, and in newspapers in both Spanish and English. Her book of short stories entitled After was published in 2015. And right now she's currently writing a novel and finishing the translation of her published book, After, into Spanish, which is also being utilized as part of reading curriculums in several colleges and universities. Rivera Escamilla is the director, writer, and producer of the documentary Manio Argueta Poets and Volcanoes, and she is a fellow of the Penn Center USA Rosenthal Foundation Emerging Voices Program. Carolina earned her BA in English Literature from UCLA with an emphasis in creative writing and Spanish literature. You can also find more information about her at www.carolinariveraescamilla.com and www.altivofilms.com. So we can give it up for Carolina Rivera Escamilla.
Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. And thank you for everyone who is over here, listening to us. I'm going to read a poem from here, and my poems are very long, and also my stories. I don't have anything very short, but these poems are more like soliloquy. So I'll start now. Thank you, Harold, for that long bio. Okay. In a corner of your country, a shadow has stopped, or perhaps it is a soul. Sunday is ringing church bells absent of echo. The empty streets, where are the people? This is not a church who offered me shelter when the world was upside down. I am caged in a corner of faded yellow, red, orange colors of the Californian grapefruit sun. I am dreaming of a world, my world, a world without a pillow, a world embroiled and sculling in sour lemon, rolling inside my veins. A baggy-eyed world, hypochondriac. It drifted like a leaf that I wanted to catch from the river when I was 7 years old. Oh, distant world, the tree at my house yields yellow flowers like tropical summer jewels. It is not my fault you don't want to enter my world. How stupid to think that my universe is important. It is assumed from before my departure that it was me who had to mend your world onto my skin. You know, I detest Sundays. How wretched you are, who still believe in that day. You argue that something must have happened to me on Sunday, that there is no reason why I should hate Sunday. Sundays have always seemed to me an idle luxury for fools. Many die of thirst from words, as the world opens its secret sorrows on blind walls. On Sundays, I am consecrated to curse the dictators of my adolescence. On Sundays, sometimes I have a company. A voice restless and heartbroken accompanies me on Sundays. She who, like me, has the same fate relegated. She fills herself with song. Thanks to life, gracias a la vida, Violeta Parra. On Sundays in exile, I meet her in a dark house, a confused hour of late afternoon, a cloudy Sunday, Tassel, a house inhabited by women of different territorial directions, wanting to change the world. The girls play and sing in an English, row, row, row your boat. They fight in an English, I hate you, I hate you. Mothers do not understand that the world is already wounded. You didn't do it. She, the banished, like me, carries a memory in a plastic jar or a fabric of woven arpilleras. Like a dream, these plastic jars were women of our territories used to store water. It is collected from the river, a little foamy from washing, and they drink it together with their children. She sings a song of Silvio Rodriguez, and you like it to hear the song. It is as close to your experience as the year of the Red Moon Revolution. Then she goes, there are echoes in our memories. I write words with wings that do not take off. And like this, we spend the unsavory Sundays in exile. In my world, there is a lot of water. The water has an owner. Water is cared for similarly to my care for memory in this corner without umbilical cord. Children killed, rivers poisoned by great masters of the universe, despots of the world. Them I curse double on Sundays. And every days of the week, they owe me, they owe us, they owe me, they owe us so much. There is no echo in this town. There is no echo in this town. Its freeways, majestic rulers of the city, ghosts of Los Angeles destined, and I am one of them. I think women rooted in the grave of their sons and daughters. Cicadas recite the seasons, and so mine, yours, years pass in this corner of whose country?
Thank you, Carolina.
Yes, yeah. I don't know if I made my 7 minutes, but there we go.
Okay, está bien. Gracias por tu trabajo tan bello. Just a reminder that this is a reading series, so we will also be here next week on Facebook Live on June 6th at 5 p.m. So you don't forget, it is a reading series. And next week's readers are Alexis Aguilar, Susana Aguilar, Marcelo, Francisco Aragon, Plinio Hernandez, Robert Farid Karimi, Sheila Maldonado, Henry Mills, and Alexandra Litton Regalado. So please, it's not just a one Saturday event, it's actually a reading series that we have going on. Also, if we have time at the end, we are going to have some questions that the audience may have for either the whole panel of writers or just individually. So stick around if you want to have some of those questions answered. With that said, I have now to introduce you to our reader, Leon Salvatierra, who is the author of Al Norte, published in 2012. In 2014, he received a PhD in Hispanic languages and literatures from UC Berkeley. His poem, Enseñando al Inmigrante a Hablar Inglés, won the Juana Gorgon Poetry Prize in 2020 for the best poem in Spanish written in the United States. Leon is a second-year poet in the MFA poetry program at UC Davis. So let's hear it for Leon Salvatierra.
Thank you, Harold, and thanks everybody for being here. It's great to be reading with these amazing poets and writers. I want to start by saying that today it's Mother's Day in Nicaragua. So I want to just say Happy Mother's Day to my mom and my wife and all the Nicaraguan mothers. And I'll start with a poem titled Mother. My mother arrived 2 days before our journey began. After paying Caballo Blanco the money for taking me to the US, we walked around Guatemala City. She wanted to buy merchandise that she could sell in Nicaragua, where she earned a living as a peddler. She bought mainly gold and silver-plated jewelry. She noticed I had lost weight and tried to feed me constantly with food we purchased from street vendors. At the park, a man sold her a Polaroid picture he took of us while we were eating ice cream. That was the last photo she had of me as a teenager. The day of my departure, she told me that I had to be brave. More than a decade would pass before I saw her again. She kept the photo in her wallet all those years while I kept trying to be brave. Next poem is titled Panchita's Number 1, but it takes place in Panchita's Number 2, which is a pupusa restaurant in the Mission. Many of you probably know it. It's a great pupuseria place. We celebrate Central American Independence Day eating pupusas in Panchita's Number 2. Circular fragments of dicha from El Salvador dispersed into the ambience of the Mission District. In a small shack illuminated by the white long gown of our server, she appears to slowly move on wheels, delivering our communion bread with Jamaica drinks to a UN of pallets. My Salvadorian friends pressure me to admit pupusas are the greatest Central American invention, perhaps the only one. Predicting pupusas will achieve something greater than KFC or McDonald's for light years in cultural authenticity, imagining how much more authentic pupusas are at the original Panchita's Number 1. Dreaming one day pupusas will gain enough public support to make it to Congress, the White House, kitchen, or in its defect, Air Force One, to warm the stomach lining of the gods. Though one question remains, where is Panchita's Number 1? The server, when asked, wheels by, illuminating us. The Number 1 doesn't exist. The next poem is titled Sonora Desert. Vultures circle in the sky like a merry-go-round. Someone in the family photo that is lying among the rocks begins to melt. He had taken off his shoes and clothes, ran through thorns and thickets, and screamed like a newborn left behind. He fell on his back from dizziness and cramps. A black ring above is a sign of death. He sees a flickering wall in the distance. A pond appears to get closer. His mind goes back to a mobile above his cradle where he had played. With a faint smile, he holds his arms up, reaching the merry-go-round of the vultures. His next poem is titled Teaching the Immigrant to Speak English, and it has an epigraph of a poem by James Tate, and the epigraph says, "They didn't have much trouble teaching the ape to write poems." And this is my poem. Miss Doolittle didn't have much difficulty teaching the immigrant to speak English. First, she made him clean the wax out of his ears before repeating the contraction am 100 times to perfection. For hours, she had him stand in front of the TV, mimicking gestures from American stars. Then she taught him to say the American R, imitating the American sound for a dog barking, roof, roof, and pushing his tongue back with her index finger, even as he opened his mouth to devour a burger. She nailed the Star-Spangled Banner into his chest. Finally, when he spoke, Miss Doolittle patted him on the shoulder while he sat on the sofa and whispered into his ear, "There, you sound like an American now. Why don't you try to say it?" This next poem is titled Polito, and it's a really short poem. And Polito also drowned. He tried to bite the moon, crossing the Grand River. And I'll finish up with a poem from my first book, Al Norte, and I'll read it in Spanish. It's titled El Peso del Amor. El problema del amor es que se hace más pesado que la persona a quien amamos. De ahora en adelante voy a amarte conforme a tu peso, libra por libra. Cuando subas de peso, te amaré más. Te seguiré a diario con una balanza para pesarte. Cuando bajes de peso, te amaré menos. Te besaré menos todos los días. Bajarán los besos por decenas. Por ejemplo, si llegaras a pesar 5 libras menos, entonces equivaldría a 500 besos de tu cuota diaria. Sufrirás. Yo sé que sufrirás y nunca más me dirás, quiero bajar de peso porque me veo gorda. El problema será cuando subas demasiado de peso. Tendré que amarte más, aunque cuando estés encima, mi pecho colapse de tantos besos. Gracias.
So Leon, now you're going to introduce Harold, right?
Yeah. Next, we're going to have Harold Terrason. And Harold is an educator and a poet from Pacoima, California. His work has appeared in Poecology, Puerto del Sol, Palabra, Rushing Waters, Rising Dreams, How the Arts Are Transforming a Community, the Acentos Review, the Wandering Song, and the Packing House Review. As a teaching artist, he has helped youth in San Francisco and in Los Angeles find their voice through poetry and writing. Harold is the author of the James D. Fallon Literary Award-winning Hunting for Isotes, a collection of poems inspired by his family's immigrant experience. Let's welcome Harold.
Thank you, Leon, for the introduction. I feel very honored to be reading with all these wonderful poets, many who I've just met for the first time. So it was just wonderful to actually hear your voice. The first poem I'm going to read is from the anthology, right? And it's after Roque Dalton, the Salvadoran poet, and it's just my experience of being a Salvadoreño growing up here in the 80s. You, Roque, only you. You're the Roque toasted and grinded of my horchata. You're the sweet Roque whose crumbs I lick off my plate with each sip of Nescafe. You are the Roque melting through my every maize pore, sizzling on the grill like you're my plate of Roque fried, annoyed with beans and cream before mass every Sunday. You are the quintessence Roque, loving underneath the ruin in which we fell in love with. You are the most saddest Roque of the Roques in my garden. You are the Roque that punts and shoots the rose in my heart. You are once, twice, 3 times a wet Roque, and I love you when we are together in Guatemala, Mexico, Arizona, the moment shared with every border crossed. You are the Roque I trust in, the blood of suffering people who implores me, begs me, and orders me to stop the repression. You are the son of the great Roque manifested in my language forgotten. You are the Roque that rocks my street with swollen beats and black-eyed rhymes. You are the Roque I will build dreams tragic nails will not puncture. You are the Roque of the Pacific that awakens the American dream. You are the Roque that battles my tendency to define myself as a nation. You are the Roque that invites the embracement of all the atoms battling inside me. You are the Roque deferred, festering like a sagging sore set to explode. You are the hidden Roque broken, exiled in revolution's thighs before returning home. You are not my first Roque, or my last, was there to say. You are the Roque ocean stepping out of my dreams and into a 1993 Camry XL. Yeah, Roque, I'm talking to you. You are the very kinky kind of Roque you don't take home to mother. You are our magical Roque ready to reverse the conquest back to its origins with bicycle kicks, jukes, and tricks, only to be massacred when we step onto the fields again. You are the Roque man can do whatever a Roque can, spin a web in disguise, break a gel any size. Look out, here comes the Roque man. You're the only Roque, and alone in loving you and reciting your name in all times of the night, I forget I throw myself to drunkenness and perdition. Second poem I'm going to read, it's a little bit longer. I wrote this about 3-4 years ago when I was living in San Francisco in the Mission area. And I was being confused a lot for my friend named Ricardo. So this is a poem that I feel like it's also connected to what's going on this past week, especially. I am not Ricardo. To the bartender who thought I was Ricardo. Even tonight, when I just need to order a drink, night out with my friends, my California license in your hand, I still need to let you know who I am, to let you know I am not Ricardo. My anger about to explode louder than your DJ bumping OG hip hop bass. I am trying to give you the benefit of the doubt of who I am, my face, my history, living in Cali longer than you've been alive, just asking for a beer, a simple drink tonight among my friends. Regardless of who I'm here with is not the point. My point is I'm not Ricardo. And I can't be who I want to be, my own story, my own tongue, because I am the same fear, the same color, the same age, the same skin, the same face of the only Mexican you know by name. I am not Ricky Martin. And I suppose if we weren't in Oakland, but maybe down on La Misión, you might see me as other than what you see me as now. Maybe as a Filipino or Chaping or Chicano or Nika, a long-bearded gnome waiting on a beer. But here I am, waiting, New Jack Swing beat bumping in the back, my license in your hand, waiting while you figure out which open tab is mine. And I think about the world, of how little has changed, of how we still try to write the coattails 50 years long, of how we wrap our future, of who we are in memories of a Cesar Chavez or a Martin Luther King, found in calendars, coloring books, and as names of gentrified streets. And who the fuck set things up like this? In Mexico, they say we are fair game, just another Indio mojado on top of a train, a cash cow of exploitation to be traded, and no one cares if we are raped, stabbed, and held for ransom and prostituted. And even if we scream, and even if we beg, our hands, our labor, our sex, our children will still be sold to the highest bidder, exchanged for fair trade cups of latte sold at your local cafe. And in El Salvador, Los Mareros, the legacy of La Escuela de las Americas, Reaganomics, and your US tax dollars. Los Panderos, they own blocks by blocks of pueblos, won't hesitate to kick us out of houses we've owned for generations, won't think twice to torch our homes with 15-day notices at best, rape, torture, and bullets to the head at worst without cause or reason other than they like the land that we live on, or the ride we drive in, or the shoes we style in, or the necklace mommy in LA mailed us for Christmas, and the only thing they let us own is the fear we can't walk streets safe anymore. And it's not like it don't happen here. In La Misión, Harlem, Chicago, West Oakland, Echo Park, here, 223 people displaced in the last 3 years due to suspicious fires that got authorities scratching their heads like they ain't got no idea who done it. Here we can't dance, we can't drum, we can't sing on Sundays or any other day or night on the land we lived on for generations. Here we can't eat burritos before work without the cops, the chota, and the hipsters showing up strapped with riot gear and the no cruising and no barbecue signs posted on our streets, in parks, in churches we've attended long before they moved in. Because we are the same color, the same faith, the same skin, the same fear. And I still sit waiting, restless, that my beer depends on the verification of who I am. I sit to see how long I will wait before being served and forced to leave. Like Alex Nieto or Trayvon Martin or Amica Lopez or Ayanna Stanley Jones or Tarika Wilson or Antonio Zambrano Montes or Mike Brown or Rodney King or James de la Rosa or Freddie Gray or Manuel Diaz or Tamir Rice or Philip M. High Bear Sr. or Joel Acevedo or Yvette Smith, Terrence Crutcher or Ruben Salazar or Oscar Grant or Mario Woods or George Floyd or Breonna Taylor or even tonight, when I want to take a moment for myself, dance a little, and celebrate with friends of how far we've come and fought to reach this American dream. It seems like I can't escape the same hate, the same fear, the same xenophobia. Say what? Put this beyond Ricardo's tab? Well then, yeah, I'm Ricardo. Thank you. And can you also add a whiskey on that tab too? With that, we've come to the end of our reading.
Love that piece.
Thank you, Norm. So, Adela, are we going to take some time to maybe ask questions? Or?
Yeah, we have time. We have a little time. Should we? I'm not sure. Should we do ask for questions or should we do our set questions? What do you think, Harold?
I think, does anybody want to have a question either for one of our readers or the whole panel itself? You may want to ask.
Okay. So let's do our set questions. I just put them in the chat.
Okay.
There were 2 questions. How do you live in multiple languages? Or what does it mean to write about Central America or Central American culture while living in the U.S. And if anybody wants to take a, jump at this and talk a little bit, just unmute yourself of the readers, and that would be great. Oh, we're so respectful. Okay, I'll go.
Are we waiting? Come on now.
I know people are just but we're being highly respectful. Okay, so I'm just going to go. So how do you live in multiple languages? I mean, that is such a huge part of my heart, and I'm sure everyone here has read Gloria Anzaldua's Borderlands, and her whole idea of if you want to attack me, attack my languages, and the multiple linguistic registers. And so my language is my identity, and my ability to code switch from academic English to Spanish to Spanglish to the way I just commonly talk with my fam, all of that is me. And so when I write, I try to put all of that in my poems. How about somebody else?
I do the same thing. I got the language, it's mine, and I'm gonna use it the way I want to. Spanish, English, both at the same time. How about some silence? That communicates too.
For me, I am living in these languages, English and Spanish. Since I left El Salvador when I was 19, so you are not from here or from there. You are in the middle of everything. So English, I always saw it as my enemy, the imperialistic language. And even when we were in El Salvador, I mean, we talk about, not to listen English music actually during the war, right? Because it was the imperialistic language. So I had this relationship about learning this language was about, so taking it in. And when I went to, I had the choice to go to the Spanish, I could have done just a Spanish BA at UCLA, but I did it in English because I wanted to know my enemy better, And so living in that, I started the book that I wrote in the book of short stories that I wrote after, I brought it in English. So it took me, my ovarios, to write it actually, because it was about making this character, because these characters are from Latin America, from El Salvador, from those communities, right? So they didn't want to speak the language. So, and I say, we need to speak it, we need to do it. So it was about me getting this relationship, right, with this language. And then I like one person said that, you just do it. I kind of, I create my own language in English. Yeah, I create my own metaphors. So I do whatever I want, like they did in El Salvador, they want to do whatever they want. I mean, it's like Edward Said say, the culture of imperialism, right? So why not? Take it. And
thank you, Carolina. Thank you. Thank you. That's great. Leon, Daryl, Gina, Mauricio, Harold.
I'm just gonna jump in briefly and say that for me, I'm gonna answer the question, what does it mean to write about Central America or Central American culture while living in the US? And I think for me, it's something that I resisted for the first few years that I was here, because I just wanted to write about the moment that I was living in, and not the moment that I had left behind. But I realized that we are always standing in our memories, and that with each step that I took to move forward, there was always the past with me at all times. And, so I ended up writing about what I loved, what I missed, what I thought about constantly. And for a while, and in many ways, that was home. So that is what it means for me to write about Central America and Central American culture while living in the US.
Thank you, Daryl. Hey, Mauricio, you got a question in the chat. It says, on this question from Brenda G. Martinez, on this question of language, Mauricio, can you talk about the language of hip hop in your poetry?
Yeah, thanks, Brenda, for that question. Yeah, because what I was gonna say with the, like when I saw the first multiple languages question, because I was born in the DC area, born and raised there, had never been to El Salvador. My parents haven't been back since they left in the late 80s, early 90s. So it was always, I only had like a couple of ways to sort of express myself. And the way I got into writing was listening to rap music, like 7th grade. Obviously that did not become a career for me. But I like just consumed so much of it that that's kind of how like I learned to express my feelings. So I was like super quiet too. And like, so besides like translating for my grandma, like at doctor's offices, I didn't really speak Spanish that much, or like talking to them at home. And I didn't really talk that much. So like that kind of became like the way I spoke, and it still comes out in my writing. Cause that's like where a lot of my influence comes from. And that's how like, a lot of people that I like went to high school with in like the DC area, that was like a big connecting factor, and that's how we like communicated. And it's like super important to how like my stuff is structured. And like I still like now, like a good writing exercise that I do is like I'll pick like a beat that I really like and like write to it, like very like structured like to those bars. But yeah, that's.
Oh, thank you, Mauricio. That's, that kind of leads into a question from Alexis Aguilar. What sense of kinship do you feel with other Central Americans? In other words, what do Central Americans have in common? Maybe Leon, Gina, Harold, maybe one of you guys can answer that. If not, anybody, but Leon, great.
Yeah, I don't really know what Central American is for me. I think I have an idea. It might be a superstition, but it's something that I think it's kind of like central in my existence. For me, Central America is just my vantage point, where I write from. I can call it Central America. I can call it Nicaragua. I can call it my memory, my visions, my dreams. That's where I get my writing ink, but it's just the content, the fabric of my writing, is not, I think it doesn't really, it's not my writing, right? What I want to say is that I don't write about Central America to reaffirm an identity, like some Central American identity. I write because I'm a poet, and just the fact that I'm Central America, that's just part of me, just like many other things are part of me. And so, but I don't see it as something, it's just like poetry, like Central America doesn't, I don't know what it is, but I kind of think I know how it feels.
Yeah. Well, if I could write on talk with that, Leon, you really brought up all these ideas I've always been thinking about for years and years. And for me, the concept of Central America goes to the concept of the Americas, which then goes to the concept of the conquest, then goes to these artificial ideas of nation states and how those ideas are used to oppress people. Woo! I know that was big. But that's what it is to me. So when I write in my poems about Nicaragua, I'm trying to break the Anglo vision of a United States, that the United States, it has always been a multilingual, multicultural tapestry, and that our voices have always been here. They may not have been heard, and there are different waves and issues that come with each generation, but that I like to see the reality of our situation as a Pan-American discourse. Yeah. Harold, I'm going to give it up to you because it's now 6:16. You decide what to do.
First, I have to unmute myself. Thank you for your great answers. I am just going to plug in next reading again before, in case we get cut off. On June 6th, the readers are going to be Alexis Aguilar, Susana Aguilar Marcelo, Francisco Aragon, Plinio Hernandez, Robert Farid Karimi, Sheila Maldonado, Henry Mills, and Alexandra Litton Regalado. So remember that that's next week at the same time. Look at our page online, on Facebook for more information, but it will be at 5 p.m. So please share that with everybody. And also remember that this is a fundraiser. So, if you have a few dollars, you can donate to get another print of this wonderful book that is being taught in a lot of universities, and it's the first of its kind. Please do so. The link is online on the site at www.gofundme.com/F/The Wandering Song reprint. So you guys can keep talking if you want. I love listening to all of you guys. Who haven't I heard from?
To say one thing about the kinship, we were talking about what Central Americans and we as a writers, I think we had to think about geography too. Geography, where we come from, the land, the food, climate, everything, because as a writers, like Leon was talking, we can go beyond our imagination, right? We can write about a lot of things. Oh, I'm from Costa Rica, I'm from, Guatemala. So, there is this geography also that connect us, right? I don't know, someone else can say. I just wanted to say that.
I think also for me as a Panamanian, I really think of Panama as, the Bridge of the Americas is what we're called. And so I've always really vested my identity as a Central American in that concept that not just Panama, pero también like the entire region holds the continent together, which ties a little bit to Adela's concept of this Pan-American community that is always in conversation with each other. But I think being Central American for me means sort of being in the midst of it all, and an important part of that conversation, being the bridge between the North and the South. So
and also, we, like I said before, that we come from different generations here. Some left our countries, some others. What it connects us, revolutions too, right? Wars. And United States.
Imperialism.
Yep.
We're all here as a result of U.S. imperialism,
Yep.
in some form, shape, or the other. Yeah.
But that's the story about a lot of the world, right?
Yes.
So
yes. First colonialism,
that doesn't
then
really
imperialism.
make us distinctive, this is.
Oh, it does.
That in some.
Well, I think, Leon, what you're talking about is.
I just have issues with trying to create like some sort of like a list of what things connect us, because like in Nicaragua, for example, we have the Caribbean coast, and then we have the Pacific coast where I'm coming from, right? And the people at the Caribbean coast they speak different languages, and they look different, and they have different cultures. So I don't really, it's hard for me to have like a concept of what Nicaraguan is, and so it's even harder for me to imagine try to tease out a nicely written sentence about what Central America is or what it means. I just kind of have a feeling of what it is. I don't really know what it is, but like I said, in my writing, that's just a vantage point from my own personal experience, and the writing is something else.
You know, so Leon, I think what you're pointing at or going toward is that distinction between politics and art. And so some people will say, you know, the art is political. Some people will say, oh no, the art is separate. It's in its own category. It's ethereal. It's up here. So it's a really powerful conversation, especially how we identify as writers in our project of creating our literature, right? So what is this literature that we are making, and what is this art, and how does history, politics, the interactions of nations, these labels, Central America, Nicaragua, United States, imperialism, colonialism, how do those have a place in art? Do they not have a place in art? I mean, I think they do, because from all the poems we heard today and all the writing we heard today, that's not, I mean, it was way up there, but I think that's what you're talking about, Leon, is that whole thing of where's the politics, where's the art, and how does that intermingle and mix, and then how does that affect you as a writer, right? How does that influence you? Does that inspire you? Does that shut you down? Does it distract? You know, hey Gina, what do you think?
You have to.
You know, I'm sort of in the same, you know, I don't know if there's if there is one thing that unites all of us, because there is, like Leon was saying, such a diversity of culture, language, experience, history amongst Central Americans and also the diaspora. So I'm not sure I have much to add, but I know that when I go out into the world and I meet other people of Central American descent, I am always just overjoyed, and there's a feeling of community there, and a feeling of understanding there, and a closeness that comes. And yeah, and I think we are also, you know, for Salvadorans are people of exquisite passions. I think there was some poll or it was something a few years ago I read about Salvadorans are the #2 most emotional people in the world. So maybe that's something. There's a lot of beautiful poetry and writing that comes from our countries. And I think certainly for me, because I grew up in the US, and you know, this is my father's country. He came to the US as a child and spent most of his life in the US. It's been a lot of kind of discovery and connection, and sort of seeing what it is to be of the diaspora here, and writing about Central America. I've had to kind of learn a lot about it myself.
So can I jump in here, Adela? So I'm not Central American, and what she just finished speaking about, the diaspora, I feel like I'm part of that diaspora, whether it's because of the heartfelt relationships that I have with Central Americans, having lived in Central America or the Caribbean, from Panama to Cuba. And what I'm listening to, what resonates so much is the language and the culture that's in the language. So it makes me think of the bridge that is my tongue. And I can empathize and feel exactly what it is that you're talking about without having been from there. And the parallels are so strong that I don't feel like a foreigner here.
Thanks, Norm. All right, well, Harold, I'll give it back to you. You know, I'm supposed to be the techie, and Harold's the host.
You're a better facilitator of questions than I am. I'll just say this, and it goes a little to what Leon was saying earlier. And a little bit about Gina was saying, you know, I grew up here, but my parents moved here right in the 70s. So there wasn't many Salvadoreños in the LA area at the time, Centroamericanos. So every time we would see each other, it's like, oh my God, it's Centroamerica. It was often like this bonding, but like for somebody from Guatemala, it's almost like you found a brother or a sister. But at the same time, there was that also like that friction that, okay, but we're not the same, right? Like, you know, you have your own identity, I have my own identity, and we're both fighting, you know, to be finding our own culture here in the US. So there was always this constant like friction between all three different groups. So in that sense, I feel like Leon, when he was talking about like the coast, the Pacific and the Atlantic coast, and it felt the same here because I felt like I'm still trying to learn my parents' tongue and also trying to integrate into the Mexican immigrant culture that was so predominant at that time here. So it's almost like you're going between 2 or 3 different cultures at the same time. So
yeah, and then when you're here in the United States, like Mauricio, you were born here and you've never gone back. I only went back once when I was a young girl. And so then we become part of this Latin American Latinidad in the US, which has its own complexities, right? Which is completely different than being Nicaragüense myself. If I was living and born and raised in Nicaragua, it would be completely different. So but you know what I love though? I love that complexity. You know, and like Francisco Aragon, you wrote in here, the conversation surrounding this question is what's vital and not trying to pin it down definitively. And that's what I think, that complexity is the beauty. And when we try to make things small, we lose. But when we open up to what cannot be pinned down, that's art, that's beauty, that's life, that's knowledge, that's everything. So,
yeah,
okay.
I was just gonna agree with you, Adela. I thought you had this metaphor of a Pan-American conversation. You know, like that's what the identity is. It's a conversation. It's something that's active and growing and changing and full of opinions and full of different ideas. And I just thought that was a really beautiful way to put it. So thank you, Adela, for saying that earlier.
Harold, shall we wrap it up? If there's any, unless there's other people want to say something or point, we can wrap it up. Gina, Leon, Carolina, Darel, Mauricio.
No, para mí es igual. It's a beautiful experience. I just remember that I know that, like I said before, that we come from different generations, and you know, I was born in El Salvador, so I left when I was 19. But we have to remember that, you know, the conquista, I mean, the indigenous language with the language Spanish, right? There is always this, you know, it's never been this pure Spanish, right? There is always, we know ourselves. I mean, even the people who were born here, their parents, how they speak, you know, el huacal, we have all this language. So that's, I think, we are different from South America, even though they are the indigenous there. But like Leon was talking about the art, I mean, yeah, sure, as a writer, like I said before, you don't have to mention pupusas in order to say, I'm a Salvadorian, I'm going to write pupusa, because I mean, you have to put it in context, right? But you can write whatever you want to write. I mean, the writer is an artist, like a painter, they can write whatever they want. But still, I mean, as a Central Americans, there is a connection. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Leon, Gina, Mauricio, anybody? Daryl, Harold?
Honored to be part of this. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Gina. Sorry.
I just want to say I'm honored to be part of this conversation and this reading. And thank you all for coming to spend time with our words.
And remember to donate if you can.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
Donate.
I just want to take a time to thank all our feature readers today, Gina, Daryl, Adela, Mauricio, Carolina, Leon, and myself. You guys did such a great, wonderful job, and I hope that everybody was in the audience appreciated your work as much as I did, and they understand how important it is for all of us to be reading and sharing our work with others, for many of the reasons that we just discussed. And also we need to thank Tia Chucha's Press for coming out with this book, at least the first print. And of course, we need to thank our furious leader, Gabriela Ramirez Chavez, for curating this reading and for giving us the opportunity to share our work in this space at this time of the year. And I don't know if, oh, and we need to thank Adela for moderating and facilitating the questions at the end.
And thank Harold for doing the being our MC.
Thank you.
For everybody who are being amazing. Yay! Okay, so what I'm gonna do, you guys can go now. I will wait until the last people here. I'm gonna unmute everybody. If you guys wanna talk, you can talk. So gracias.
Miss Go, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
So much.
Harold, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you, Norm, for stopping by. I miss you.
Igualmente, Papa.
I'll be right back.
Hey, Carol, how you doing?
Oh, fine.
I hope you enjoyed the reading.
Oh, it's fabulous. It was fabulous.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
I'm glad you're doing this.
Yeah, it was nice, yeah.
Yeah, I turned my video off.
Oh, that's all right. You had a cute hat. Look at that. Oh, no, it's a scarf.
It's a scarf. It's to cover my roots.
Oh, no, you look cute.
Oh, thanks.
How you doing, Jory? Nice to see you. I'm so glad you could come out and hear part of what we're doing here. Jules, I'd say hi to you, but I don't know you. But hi, Jules, you're welcome.
Sorry I got here a little bit late, but I'm fascinated by the topic, and I am just a learner in this environment, and happy to hear what you guys had to say. I'm fascinated with the topic of cultural appropriation and how, as a white male, I can avoid that label and the tendency to do that. So it's fascinating to hear you guys talk about what you're going through and have gone through.
Oh,
and,
thank you, Jerry.
Being a unilingual person, I'm at a disadvantage.
Yeah. That's not your fault. It's our culture. Yeah. When I was 18 years old, I went to Europe on a college tour, right? And everybody in Europe is multilingual. Like, it's required that everybody has to speak 2-3 languages, and it's not like a burden. Everybody can do it. So for us to be monolingual is not. I think it's a disservice to us. That everybody should speak multi-languages. I think it's cool.
Yeah. Well, are you in the Emerald Street Writers? I can't remember.
Yes.
Oh, so you're going to be reading in July. Good.
Yeah, I'll join that one.
I've had you on my list to try to get you on.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice to have you promoting us, our work, Jory. I so appreciate everything you do for poetry in the Santa Cruz County.
Thanks.
We need people like you so much.
Well, thank you, folks, for putting this on. This is great. I hope to be there for the next one.
Okay, yeah. Next week, right? Next Saturday, 5 o'clock.
That's a bad time for me. That's also Catamaran Literary Readers Launch.
But it's being recorded.
It's being recorded.
Yeah, but I'm one of the readers.
No, it's being recorded, Jory. So you can.
Is being recorded.
Yeah, this one's being recorded. These are being recorded, so then you can watch them. Go to Central American. Here, I'll type it up. Central American Writing in the U.S.
Okay.
And they are all being recorded.
Perfect.
And you can watch them at your leisure. Yeah. So that's a Facebook page. Here, I put it here. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So that's a Facebook page. And you can just like it, you know what I'm saying, and then you'll get the ads and stuff.
Very good.
Okay. Well, Carol, Harold, Jory, I'm gonna take off unless you guys have something to.
Yep. Me too.
Bye.
Hey. Okay. So bye, Harold. Hey, Harold. I think it went great. I think we did it. High five. All right. All right.
Thank you. We can chat later.
Yeah, we can chat later. It went great.
Okay.
All right. See you. Okay. Bye. Bye.